Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Quiet Storm. Cole Mitchell sat in his downtown office, the weight of silence pressing against the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city's financial district. At 42, he carried himself with the measured precision of a man who had learned that survival depended on reading every shadow, every micro-expression, every shift in the wind. His private security consulting firm occupied the entire 15th floor, a testament to 15 years of methodical success after leaving the Army. The wedding photo on his desk caught the afternoon light. Rebecca's radiant smile, next to his stoic expression, Tyler barely 5 years old between them. That was 8 years ago, before the cracks started showing. Before Rebecca's late nights became routine, before the whispered phone calls, before the lies piled up like autumn leaves. His phone buzzed. Tyler's contact photo filled the screen. His 16-year-old son, the one person Cole had never learned to armor his heart against. "Dad." Tyler's voice was shattered, barely recognizable through the tears. Cole's hand tightened around the phone. In 16 years, he'd heard his son cry exactly 3 times. When he broke his arm at 7, when their dog died at 10, and when Cole and Rebecca separated 6 months ago. "What happened?" "Mom's boyfriend. He said things about you. Called you a coward who hides behind a desk. Said you were a pretend soldier who never saw real action." Tyler's voice cracked. Everyone at school heard about it. He was bragging at the grocery store, and kids recorded it. It's all over social media. Cole's jaw clenched. Rebecca had introduced Tyler to Danny Torres 3 months ago, a construction foreman with biceps that strained his tank tops and a mouth that wrote checks his body couldn't cash. Cole had researched him thoroughly. 2 DUIs, a history of bar fights, and a reputation for running his mouth. "I told him you were a war hero, but he just laughed. Said Mom told him the truth about you." The truth. Cole closed his eyes, remembering the classified missions that would never appear in any official record. The men who died beside him in places that didn't exist on any map. The nightmares that still visited him in the small hours. "Dad, are you there?" "I'm here." Cole's voice was steady, betraying nothing of the storm building inside him. "I'll handle this." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." After hanging up, Cole opened his laptop and pulled up the social media post Tyler mentioned. Danny Torres, shirtless and grinning, gesturing wildly as he told anyone who'd listen about Rebecca's weak ex-husband. The comments were brutal. Teenagers Cole had watched grow up, parents from Tyler's school, neighbors who'd once respected him. Cole made 3 phone calls. The first was to Tommy Russo, his former teammate who now ran a private investigation firm. The second was to Maria Santos, who controlled half the city's construction permits. The third was to his lawyer. By sunset, he had Danny's complete background, the gambling debts, the under-the-table workers, the safety violations at his job sites. More importantly, he had Rebecca's movements for the past 6 months, including the hotel receipts that predated their separation by 4 months. Cole had learned patience in places where impatience meant death. Now, as he watched the city lights flicker to life below, he began to plan. Danny Torres wanted to know who Cole Mitchell really was. He was about to find out. Chapter 2. The Revelation. The drive to Rebecca's house took 18 minutes. Cole had timed it the day she moved out. The modest 2-story colonial in Riverside Heights was where she'd taken Tyler after their separation, claiming she needed space to find herself. Cole now knew she'd found Danny Torres instead. Danny's rusted pickup truck sat in the driveway, like a middle finger pointed at propriety. Cole parked his black Tahoe across the street and checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. He'd changed from his business suit into jeans and a long-sleeved shirt, standard civilian camouflage. The front door opened before he could knock. Danny Torres filled the doorway, all swagger and misplaced confidence. He was bigger than Cole by 40 pounds, but it was soft weight, the kind that came from beer and bravado rather than discipline and dedication. "You the ex-husband?" Danny's laugh was ugly, designed to provoke. "Your wife says you're some kind of pretend soldier. All show, no go." Cole said nothing, simply studied the man who'd been sharing his son's home. Danny's pupils were dilated, his movements slightly uncoordinated. "Pills or alcohol? Probably both." "What's wrong, tough guy? Cat out your tongue." Danny stepped closer, invading Cole's space. "Rebecca told me all about you. How you come home from your fake deployment talking about classified this and classified that. How you wake up screaming from nightmares about missions that never happened. Rebecca appeared behind Danny, her face pale with a fear Cole recognized but couldn't quite place. She knew something Danny didn't. Cole, you don't need to be here. Actually, I do. Cole's voice was conversational, almost friendly. Your boyfriend has been telling stories about me. I thought I should set the record straight. Danny's chest puffed out. Oh yeah? What stories you gonna tell, desk jockey? Cole reached for his left sleeve, rolling it up slowly. The tattoo that emerged made Rebecca gasp and Danny's confident sneer falter. It wasn't the typical military ink most veterans displayed. This was different. A black trident surrounded by 13 stars, with coordinates below that any special operations soldier would recognize. Danny's face went white. Wait, you're not. DevGru, Cole said simply. What civilians call SEAL Team 6. The silence stretched like a held breath. Danny Torres had grown up on military movies and video games. He knew what those letters meant, what that tattoo represented. His hands began to shake. But, Rebecca said. Cole turned to his wife, ex-wife, and saw the truth in her eyes. She'd known exactly who he was, what he'd done. She'd lied to Danny, painted Cole as a fraud to make her affair easier to justify. I never told him about, Rebecca started. About Somalia? Afghanistan? The places that don't exist in any official record. Cole's smile was winter cold. About the men who didn't come home because of decisions I made? About the ones who did come home because of decisions I made. Danny was backing toward the door now, his face ashen. Listen, man, I didn't know. You call me a coward. Cole stepped forward, his movement predatory and precise. You said I was a pretend soldier. You humiliated my son in front of his classmates. I can fix this. I can tell everyone. You can't fix anything. Cole's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. You see, Danny, I learned something in the military. When someone attacks your family, you don't just defend. You eliminate the threat. Rebecca found her voice. Cole, please. He turned to her with eyes that held no warmth, no recognition of their shared history. 16 years of marriage. 2 tours of duty where I carried your picture into hell and back. And you told him I was a fraud. I can explain. No need. Cole headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Danny, since you're so interested in who I really am, you should probably Google the Battle of Mogadishu. Look for the after-action reports. See if you can find the names of the 2 operators who held off 300 hostiles for 6 hours. Danny's legs gave out, and he sat down hard on the porch steps. You might also want to check the construction permits for your current job sites. I hear there's going to be a surprise inspection Monday morning. Cole walked back to his Tahoe, leaving behind a silence that screamed louder than any explosion he'd ever heard. Chapter 3. The Unraveling. Rebecca's hands shook as she poured her 3rd glass of wine, watching Danny pace her living room like a caged animal. It had been 6 hours since Cole's visit, and Danny hadn't stopped moving, talking, planning their escape from a situation that was spiraling beyond his comprehension. We need to leave town, Danny said for the 10th time. Tonight. Pack what we can and just go. I can't just disappear. I have a job, Tyler's school. You think any of that matters now? Danny whirled on her, his face flushed with panic. Do you have any idea what your ex-husband is capable of? I looked him up like he said. Battle of Mogadishu. He's one of the 2 guys. They never released their names, but there were only 2 operators who survived that engagement. Rebecca had known pieces of Cole's military service, but never the complete picture. He'd been classified for most of their marriage, his deployments explained in vague terms that she'd chosen not to examine too closely. It had been easier to resent his absences than to confront the reality of what he was doing during them. He won't hurt us physically, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Won't he? Danny pulled up news articles on his phone. 3 separate incidents where former teammates of his ended up in prison or dead after crossing him. Officially, he had nothing to do with any of it. Unofficially, the doorbell rang, and both of them froze. Danny grabbed a kitchen knife while Rebecca peered through the blinds. A woman in an expensive suit stood on the porch, holding a briefcase and what looked like legal documents. Mrs. Mitchell? I'm Patricia Vega from Hartwell and Associates. I represent your husband's interests regarding custody modification and property division. Rebecca opened the door on the chain. It's after 9 p.m. Mr. Mitchell is expediting several legal matters. May I come in? 30 minutes later, Rebecca stared at documents that would destroy her life piece by piece. Cole was filing for emergency custody of Tyler, citing her relationship with Danny and its negative impact on their son's emotional well-being. He was also demanding immediate buyout of her half of their shared assets, including the house she'd thought was solely in her name. "This is harassment," Danny said. Patricia Vega smiled with professional coldness. "Mr. Mitchell's documentation is quite thorough. He has recordings of Mr. Torres' public statements about him, social media posts that have negatively impacted his son's reputation, and substantial evidence of Mrs. Mitchell's extramarital activities during the marriage." Rebecca's blood turned to ice. "What evidence?" "Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, text messages. Your relationship with Mr. Torres predates your separation by several months. In the state of Texas, that constitutes adultery, which significantly impacts alimony and property division." The lawyer left behind documents that painted Rebecca as an unfaithful wife who'd exposed her son to an unstable environment. Every lunch with Danny, every hotel room, every lie she'd told Cole during those final months, all documented with forensic precision. "How did he get text messages?" Rebecca whispered. Danny's phone buzzed. Then again, and again. His face went white as he scrolled through notifications. "What is it?" "My job. I've been suspended pending investigation. Safety violations, unpermitted work, allegations of tax evasion." He looked up at her with eyes that held dawning terror. "This is all from today?" "All of it." Rebecca's phone rang. Tyler's name on the caller ID. "Mom? I'm staying at Dad's tonight. His lawyer says I might have some choices to make about custody." "Tyler, honey, you can't just..." "Actually, I can. I'm 16. The court will listen to what I want." His voice was different, older, harder. "Dad showed me the videos of Danny talking about him. He showed me the posts from kids at school. He also showed me the hotel receipts." The line went dead. Rebecca sank onto her couch, surrounded by legal documents that felt like a closing trap. Danny continued pacing, muttering about leaving town, about starting over somewhere Cole couldn't find them. But Rebecca was beginning to understand something that Danny's panic had blinded him to. There was nowhere to run from a man who'd spent 15 years hunting people in places they thought they were safe. Cole wasn't just angry, he was operational. And she had just become his mission. Outside, a black sedan parked across the street. The driver never got out, never moved. But his presence was a message as clear as any declaration of war. The reckoning had begun. Chapter 4: Ghosts and Legends. Cole's apartment was a study in controlled minimalism. Clean lines, functional furniture, and nothing that couldn't be abandoned within 15 minutes if necessary. Tyler sat on the leather couch, still processing the transformation of his father from suburban security consultant to someone whose presence made grown men flee. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Tyler asked, holding a photograph Cole had finally shared. His old team in Afghanistan, faces painted black, eyes holding the weight of classified missions. "Some things are better left buried." Cole closed the photo album. "Your mother thought so too. Is that why she..." "Your mother made choices based on who she thought I was. Then she made choices based on who she knew I was." Cole's voice held no bitterness, only cold fact. Both sets of choices have consequences. Tyler studied his father's face, seeing similarities to his own features, but wondering what other inheritances might be hiding in his DNA. "What happens now?" "Now you decide where you want to live. The court will listen to you. I mean with Mom and Danny." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "Danny Torres spent the afternoon researching my service record. He found some of it. But military records only tell part of the story." A knock at the door interrupted them. Cole checked the security monitor and smiled, the first genuine emotion Tyler had seen from him all day. "Uncle Mike." Tyler jumped up as Cole opened the door. Michael Brick Morrison filled the doorway, 6'4" of graying muscle and scars earned in places that didn't appear on any map. He'd been Cole's team leader for 8 years and Tyler's unofficial uncle for life. "Heard you had some domestic troubles," Brick said, embracing Cole with the casual affection of men who'd saved each other's lives repeatedly. "Word travels fast. Tommy Russo called. Said some jackass was running his mouth about your service record." Brick's smile was predatory. "Thought I'd stop by, see if you needed any consultation." Tyler had grown up around his father's military friends, but tonight he was seeing them through different eyes. These weren't weekend warriors playing soldier. These were professionals who'd operated in the shadows for decades. Danny Torres is about to learn an important lesson about running his mouth, Cole said. Already started. Brick pulled out his phone, showing a news article. Torres Construction just lost their biggest contract. Seems their safety record came under scrutiny. Workers are jumping ship faster than rats on a sinking destroyer. Tyler watched his father absorb this information without surprise or satisfaction, just professional acknowledgement. There's more, Brick continued. Your ex-wife's employer received some interesting information about her. Flexibility with expense reports. Nothing illegal, but enough to raise questions about her judgment. Cole nodded. Systematic pressure. Cut off their resources. Isolate them from support structures. Basic counterinsurgency. Brick turned to Tyler. Your dad's specialty was finding people who didn't want to be found and eliminating threats to mission success. He's very good at it. Tyler was beginning to understand that the man he'd called father for 16 years was someone else entirely. The weekend camping trips had been training. The emphasis on physical fitness, on situational awareness, on never leaving a man behind. All of it preparation for a world Tyler was only now glimpsing. Is Mom going to be okay? Cole and Brick exchanged a look that communicated volumes without words. Your mother will be fine, Cole said finally. But she and Danny are learning an important lesson about actions and consequences. They humiliated you publicly. They spread lies about my service. They disrespected the memory of better men than Danny Torres could ever hope to be. Brick nodded gravely. In our line of work, reputation is everything. It's the difference between coming home and not coming home. Between trust and betrayal. Between life and death. But this isn't war, Tyler said. Cole's smile was winter cold. Son, everything is war. Some people just don't realize they're fighting until it's too late. Through the apartment's reinforced windows, Tyler could see the city lights stretching toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, his mother and Danny were discovering that they'd declared war on the wrong man. Somewhere out there, the consequences of their choices were gathering like storm clouds. Tyler was finally beginning to understand why other kids' fathers had always seemed smaller, softer, less substantial than his own. Cole Mitchell wasn't just a man. He was a force of nature that had chosen, for 16 years, to pretend to be domesticated. Now the pretense was over. Chapter 5, The Squeeze. Rebecca stood in her office at Morrison Financial, staring at the termination letter that had arrived by courier 30 minutes ago. Inconsistencies in expense reporting and judgment concerns regarding personal relationships affecting professional standing. The language was corporate sanitized, but the message was clear. Cole's reach extended into every corner of her life. Her phone buzzed with a text from Danny. Lost another job today. Words out that I'm unreliable. Can't even get day labor. We need to talk. She found him at Murphy's bar, hunched over a whiskey that clearly wasn't his first. The place was nearly empty, which wasn't surprising. Danny had burned through most of his social circle in the past week as word spread about his confrontation with Cole. They're destroying us piece by piece, Danny muttered. Your ex-husband's got connections everywhere. Construction, finance, city permits. Everywhere I turn, doors are slamming shut. Rebecca slid into the booth across from him, noting how his hands shook as he lifted his glass. Maybe we should consider apologizing. Apologizing? Danny's laugh was bitter. To him? After what he's done to us. What we did to ourselves, Rebecca corrected. We humiliated his son. We spread lies about his military service. We what? Fell in love? Started a relationship after your marriage was already over. During my marriage. The words hung in the air like an admission. The hotel receipts don't lie, Danny. We started this affair 4 months before I separated from Cole. Danny's face flushed. So what? He was gone half the time anyway. Off playing soldier while you raised Tyler alone. Rebecca's phone rang. Tyler's caller ID. Mom. Her son's voice was cautious, formal. Dad's lawyers need to know if you're planning to contest the custody modification. Tyler, we should talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You cheated on Dad. You let Danny humiliate him in public. You lied to Danny about Dad's service record. Tyler's voice cracked slightly. I can't trust you anymore. The line went dead. Rebecca stared at her phone, feeling the last connection to her son slip away. Great, Danny said. Now what? Before Rebecca could answer, 2 men in expensive suits approached their table. The larger one, built like a linebacker, smiled pleasantly as he sat down uninvited. Mrs. Mitchell? Mr. Torres? I'm Frank Castellano. This is my associate, Mr. Chun. We represent certain business interests that have been affected by recent developments. Danny puffed up defensively. Who the hell are you? I'm the guy who holds the paper on 3 of your gambling debts, Castellano said mildly. Debts that have become significantly harder to service since your recent employment difficulties. Rebecca's blood turned cold. Danny, what gambling debts? Nothing major, Danny said quickly. Just some bad luck at the casino. I can handle it. $14,000, Mr. Chin said, consulting a tablet. Plus interest and penalties. Due in full within 30 days, per the original agreement. Castellano leaned forward. Now, normally we'd work out a payment plan. But we've received some interesting information about Mr. Torres' financial prospects. Seems he's made some powerful enemies. This is extortion, Rebecca said. This is business, Castellano corrected. Mr. Torres signed contracts. He owes money. We expect payment. After the men left, Rebecca turned to Danny with eyes full of fury. $14,000? What else haven't you told me? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Rebecca's voice rose. Danny, they're loan sharks. And somehow Cole knows about your debts. Danny's face went white. How could he know about that? Rebecca was beginning to understand the depth of Cole's planning. He wasn't just attacking them randomly. He was systematically dismantling their lives, exposing every weakness, exploiting every vulnerability. The man she'd been married to for 16 years had been wearing a mask, and now she was seeing the predator underneath. We need to get out of town, Danny said. Tonight. With what money? I just lost my job, you can't find work, and you owe $14,000 to loan sharks. Rebecca gathered her purse. I'm going home. Becky, wait. Don't call me that. She turned back to him, and Danny saw something die in her eyes. Only one person ever called me Becky. A man who spent 16 years protecting his family, who carried my picture through war zones, who came home with nightmares he never talked about because he was protecting me from the truth. You're going back to him? Rebecca's laugh was hollow. There is no going back. Don't you understand? This isn't about winning me back. This is about consequences. About making us pay for what we did to his son. She left Danny sitting alone at the bar, surrounded by empty glasses and the wreckage of choices that had seemed so simple just a week ago. Outside, she noticed the black sedan again, following at a discreet distance as she drove home. Cole wasn't just destroying their lives. He was making sure they watched every piece fall apart. Chapter 6. The Gathering Storm. Cole's office had been transformed into a command center. Laptops displayed surveillance feeds, financial records, and communication intercepts. Maps of the city showed Danny's movements, Rebecca's routine, and the locations of key pressure points in their rapidly collapsing lives. Brick sat at one workstation, coordinating with contacts throughout the city's power structure. Tommy Russo manned another, tracking financial transactions and building criminal cases that would never see a courtroom but serve their purpose nonetheless. Torres is getting desperate, Tommy reported. He tried to pawn Rebecca's jewelry this morning. Got $300 for a ring she probably paid $2,000 for. Good, Cole said. Desperation leads to mistakes. Tyler sat in the corner, quietly observing the systematic destruction of his mother's life. Part of him felt guilty watching it unfold. A larger part felt a cold satisfaction that matched his father's. The loan sharks called in the debt, Brick announced. Full payment due tomorrow, or they start taking assets. Torres doesn't have assets, but Rebecca does. Cole nodded. She'll try to contact me today. When she does, I want you both here. As if summoned by his words, Cole's phone buzzed. Rebecca's name on the caller ID. Cole, we need to talk. We have nothing to discuss. Please. Danny's in trouble with some very dangerous people. They want $14,000 by tomorrow or what, Rebecca? They'll hurt him. They'll take your house. They'll destroy your credit. Cole's voice was conversational. Interesting how consequences work. Cole, please. I know what we did was wrong. You humiliated my son. You betrayed 16 years of marriage. You told your boyfriend I was a fraud. His voice never changed tone, never rose. But none of that matters compared to what you did to Tyler. I'll make it right with Tyler. No, you won't. Tyler doesn't trust you anymore. He doesn't respect you. You killed that relationship yourself. Silence stretched across the line. When Rebecca spoke again, her voice was broken. What do you want from me? I want you to understand who you were married to. I want Danny Torres to understand who he challenged. I want Tyler to see that actions have consequences, that betrayal has a price, and that some men are not safe to cross. And then you live with the choices you made. Cole ended the call and turned to Tyler. Your mother is going to ask you to intercede on her behalf. What will you tell her? Tyler considered the question seriously. That she made her choice when she chose him over our family. And if she promises to change, to end things with Danny. She had 16 years to choose you over other men. She chose differently. Tyler's voice carried a hardness that surprised even Cole. Some choices can't be undone. Brick looked up from his workstation. Torres just withdrew the last of his savings. He's planning to run. Where? Mexico, probably. He's got a cousin in Tijuana. But he can't cross the border with outstanding debts to Castellano's people. Cole smiled. The predator's expression Tyler was learning to recognize. Contact Castellano. Tell him Torres is planning to flee. Suggest they might want to expedite collection. Tommy grinned. You're evil, brother. I'm thorough. Cole turned back to Tyler. Your mother and Danny thought they were playing house. They didn't realize they were playing with someone who spent 15 years learning how to destroy enemies without firing a shot. Through the office windows, the city sprawled below them like a game board. Somewhere in that maze of streets and buildings, Rebecca was discovering that the man she'd divorced wasn't the man she'd thought she'd married. Somewhere down there, Danny Torres was learning that some prey never escapes the hunter. Tyler watched his father coordinate the systematic destruction of 2 lives with the same calm efficiency he brought to everything else. No anger, no malice, just cold professional competence applied to a personal problem. Dad, yes, I'm proud of you. Cole looked at his son, really looked at him, and saw something he'd been hoping to find. Steel where there had once been softness, resolve where there had once been uncertainty. We're not done yet, Cole said. I know. Tyler's smile was winter cold, inherited from his father like eye color or height. I'm looking forward to the finale. Chapter 7. The Trap Springs. Rebecca's house had become a fortress under siege. Danny paced the living room, occasionally peering through the blinds at the black sedan that had been parked across the street for 3 days. His bags were packed, sitting by the front door like accusations. They're not going to let us leave, he said for the 100th time. Then don't leave. Rebecca looked up from the paperwork scattered across her coffee table. Termination letters, foreclosure notices, collection demands. Face what you owe. $14,000. Where am I supposed to get $14,000? You could have thought of that before you gambled it away. Danny stopped pacing. This is your fault too. If you hadn't lied to me about your ex-husband. If I hadn't lied? Rebecca's laugh was bitter. If you hadn't run your mouth at the grocery store. If you hadn't humiliated Tyler. If you hadn't called a decorated war hero a coward. How was I supposed to know? You could have asked me. You could have researched him before shooting your mouth off. You could have shown some basic respect for the father of the woman you claim to love. Before Danny could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Rebecca saw Frank Castellano, flanked by 2 larger men who looked like they collected debts for a living. Mr. Torres, Castellano said when Danny opened the door. Time's up. I need more time. Time's a luxury. Payment is a necessity. Castellano stepped into the house uninvited, his associates following. Nice place. Should cover most of what you owe. This is my house, Rebecca said. Your house, his debt. Castellano smiled pleasantly. In Texas, common law relationships create interesting legal obligations, especially when one party has been living off the other's resources. Danny's face went white. That's not how it works. That's how it works when we have pictures of you using her credit cards, receipts showing you living at her address, and documentation of financial entanglement. Castellano pulled out a tablet, showing photographs of Danny using Rebecca's credit card at various establishments. Your ex-husband was very helpful in documenting your relationship status. Rebecca felt the walls closing in. Cole did this. Mr. Mitchell provided some very thorough documentation about your living arrangements. Helped us understand the full scope of Mr. Torres' assets and financial resources. The genius of Cole's plan was becoming clear. He hadn't just exposed Danny's gambling debts. He'd engineered a situation where those debts would destroy Rebecca's life as well. You have 48 hours to vacate, Castellano announced. We'll be taking possession of the house to satisfy the debt. You can't do that. Read the fine print, Mrs. Mitchell. Texas property law is very clear about common law financial obligations. Castellano headed for the door. Oh, and Mr. Torres? Don't even think about running. We have associates in Mexico, too. After they left, Rebecca and Danny sat in stunned silence. Everything she'd built over 16 years of marriage was gone. Her job, her house, her son's respect, her future. We could fight it in court, Danny said weakly. With what lawyer? What money? Rebecca stood up, walking to the window where she could see the black sedan. He planned this perfectly. Every move, every pressure point, every consequence. Her phone rang. Tyler's number. Mom? Dad's lawyers say you have 48 hours to move out. You know about this? I've been here the whole time, watching Dad work. Tyler's voice was steady, adult. He wanted me to see how he handles people who threaten his family. Tyler, please. Mom, you chose Danny over Dad. You chose lying over truth. You chose humiliating Dad in public over protecting our family. Tyler paused. Now you get to live with those choices. And if I leave, Danny? If I admit I was wrong? Some choices can't be undone, Mom. Dad taught me that. The line went dead. Rebecca turned to Danny, who was staring at his packed bags with the expression of a man facing execution. This is what you wanted, she said. You wanted to know who Cole Mitchell really was. You wanted to challenge him, to prove you were the better man. Becky, don't call me that. Her voice was empty, hollowed out. Pack your things. We're done. Where am I supposed to go? Rebecca looked at the man who had cost her everything, her marriage, her son, her home, her future, and felt nothing but cold disgust. That's not my problem anymore. Through the window, she watched the black sedan pull away. Its job was done. Cole Mitchell had won completely, and he'd made sure she understood exactly how thoroughly she'd been defeated. Chapter 8. The Reckoning Complete. 2 months later, Tyler sat in his father's office, reviewing college applications. Stanford, MIT, West Point. Options that would have been impossible on Rebecca's reduced circumstances, but were easily within Cole's reach. The boy had grown taller, more confident, carrying himself with an unconscious military bearing inherited from his father. Any word from Mom? Tyler asked without looking up from his essays. She's working at a diner in Dallas, living in a studio apartment. Cole's voice held no satisfaction, no gloating, just cold fact. Danny Torres was last seen in Houston, washing dishes and dodging collection calls. Good. Cole studied his son, noting the hardness that had replaced the soft uncertainty of adolescence. The boy had watched his father systematically destroy 2 lives with clinical precision, and rather than being horrified, he'd learned. The lesson had taken root in ways that would shape him for the rest of his life. Do you ever wonder if we went too far? Tyler asked. No. Cole's answer was immediate. They chose their actions. We simply ensured they faced the consequences. Tommy Russo knocked and entered, carrying a thick file. Final report on the Torres situation. Is it finished? Completely. Torres tried to contact Rebecca last week. She wouldn't take his calls. He's burned through what little money he had, can't find steady work, and Castellano's people are still collecting interest on the original debt. Tommy grinned. He's learned not to run his mouth about other men's military service. And Rebecca? Living paycheck to paycheck. Her credit's destroyed, her employment history is toxic, and she's effectively blacklisted from any decent job in the financial sector. Tommy paused. She tried to contact Tyler through social media. He blocked her. Cole nodded approval. Good man. Tyler didn't look up from his college essays. She made her choice. I made mine. Later that evening, Cole stood on his apartment balcony, watching the city lights reflect off the river below. 16 years of marriage, gone. A relationship with his son, strengthened through shared understanding of hard truths. 2 enemies, neutralized permanently. His phone buzzed. Rebecca's number. She'd been calling once a week for 2 months, leaving voicemails he never returned. Cole, please. Please talk to me. Her voice was different now, smaller, broken, stripped of the confidence that had once defined her. Cole listened to the entire message, then deleted it without responding. Tyler joined him on the balcony, carrying 2 beers. Think she'll ever stop calling? Eventually. Cole accepted the beer. People adapt to reality when they have no choice. Do you miss her? Cole considered the question seriously. I miss who I thought she was. I don't miss who she actually turned out to be. They stood in comfortable silence, father and son, watching the city where their enemies now scraped out marginal existences. Rebecca serving coffee to truckers at a highway diner. Danny Torres cleaning grease traps and avoiding eye contact with customers who might recognize him. Dad, yeah. When I'm older, if someone betrays me the way Mom betrayed you, will you teach me how to handle it? Cole looked at his son, 16 years old, already thinking like a soldier, already understanding that the world was divided into allies and enemies, those who could be trusted and those who couldn't. Son, I already have. Tyler smiled, and Cole saw his own steel reflected in the boy's eyes. Rebecca had destroyed their family through selfishness and betrayal. But from that destruction, Cole had forged something stronger. A son who understood that loyalty was earned, that respect was commanded, and that some lines, once crossed, led to consequences that lasted forever. In the distance, a siren wailed. Somewhere in the city, someone was learning that actions had consequences. Someone was discovering that some men were not safe to cross. Cole Mitchell had taught his son well. Chapter 9, Lessons in Steel. 1 year later, Tyler stood at the podium during his high school graduation, addressing a crowd that included every family except one. His speech about integrity, loyalty, and the importance of keeping one's word received a standing ovation. Cole watched from the front row, wearing dress blues that drew respectful nods from other parents who understood what those ribbons meant. After the ceremony, Tyler found his father surrounded by other graduates' families, people who now treated Cole with a deference that bordered on reverence. The story of Danny Torres' downfall had become local legend, whispered in corporate boardrooms and construction sites as a cautionary tale about respecting the wrong man. Ready to go? Cole asked. Just one more thing. Tyler walked to the parking lot where a familiar figure waited by a rusted Honda Civic. Rebecca looked older, worn down by months of manual labor and financial stress. Her carefully maintained appearance had given way to cheap clothes and tired eyes. Tyler, she said, stepping forward. Congratulations. I'm so proud. Don't. Tyler's voice carried the same cold authority Cole recognized as his own. You don't get to be proud. You weren't here for the work. You don't get credit for the results. I'm still your mother. Biologically. Tyler studied her face, noting the desperate hope that died as he spoke. But mothers protect their children. They put their families first. They don't humiliate their children's fathers in public. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I made mistakes. You made choices. Repeated, deliberate choices that destroyed our family. Tyler's voice never rose, never wavered. Dad taught me that some choices can't be undone. Some relationships can't be repaired. Tyler, please. I'm going to West Point in the fall. For years there, then probably Rangers or Special Forces. I'll serve my country the way Dad did. Tyler paused. You'll never be part of that life. Cole approached as Rebecca broke down crying, her shoulders shaking with the weight of what she'd lost. Time to go, son. Tyler nodded and walked toward their truck without looking back. Cole paused beside Rebecca, studying the woman who had once meant everything to him. This is what you chose, he said quietly. A year ago, you had a family, a home, a future. You traded it all for a construction worker who ran his mouth about things he didn't understand. I know, Rebecca whispered. I know what I lost. Do you? Cole's voice was conversational, almost kind. Because I don't think you understand the full scope of what you destroyed. Tyler will graduate from West Point. He'll serve his country with honor. He'll marry a woman who understands loyalty. He'll raise children who know the difference between right and wrong. Rebecca looked up at him with eyes full of desperate hope. And you'll never meet those grandchildren. You'll never see him graduate from West Point. You'll never be part of the family he builds. Cole's smile was winter cold. That's not cruelty, Rebecca. That's justice. He walked away, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot where their son had just formally severed the last connection between them. In the truck, Tyler was quiet as they drove through the city where their enemies had learned hard lessons about consequences. Any regrets? Cole asked. About Mom? None. Tyler looked out the window at the urban landscape where Danny Torres still lived in a flop house, working day labor when he could find it, drinking away what little money he earned. About letting her see who we really are? None. Good man. Dad, yeah. When I'm at West Point, when I'm serving overseas, when I'm building my own life, I want to remember this lesson. That loyalty matters. That family comes first. That some people aren't safe to trust. Cole nodded. The most important lessons are the hardest ones. They drove in comfortable silence through a city that now understood who Cole Mitchell really was. Not the quiet security consultant who'd appeared at PTA meetings and school plays. Not the devoted husband who'd hidden his true nature behind civilian clothes and corporate politeness. He was what Tyler was becoming, a man forged in steel, tempered by fire, unforgiving of betrayal and relentless in defending what mattered. Rebecca had wanted to know who her husband really was. Danny Torres had challenged him publicly, called him a coward. They had both learned the truth. Some men are wolves in sheep's clothing. Some men carry war in their hearts and hide it behind kind eyes and gentle words. Some men, when their families are threatened, remember what they were trained to do in places that don't exist on any map. Cole Mitchell was such a man. His son was learning to be another. In the rearview mirror, the city fell away behind them, carrying with it the wreckage of choices made by people who had forgotten that every action has consequences, every betrayal has a price, and some debts can only be paid in pain. The reckoning was complete. The lesson was learned. The future belonged to those strong enough to seize it and ruthless enough to defend it. Father and son drove toward that future together, leaving behind only the echoes of justice served cold and the bitter understanding that in a world full of predators, the wise man teaches his cubs to be the apex predator. The lesson was complete.